All right, guys. Again, we got the call every Monday. In the studio, we've got Thaddeus Scruggs.
Yeah.
So appreciate you, man, coming in. Like I said, this is awesome. I love it. But today, really, we want to zone in on the importance of why we're helping the clients and finding that need.
Yep.
I think it's very, very important. I know it's changed the game for me, and I see it when you stop making the in-home and the appointment about yourself or the financial gains that may come out of it, and you really zone in for why you're there and how you can protect the family. It really just allows us to go out there and serve more people. So
Yeah, absolutely.
we're going to start off. I know it's very important for me to find out normally within the first 5 to 10 minutes why I'm there. Because if there is no why, I always tell people this. If there is no why, then price doesn't matter.
Yeah, for sure.
And then it becomes transactional. And then you look like the sales guy.
Yep.
So I know for me, and I'm not a sales guy, and I don't even look at myself like I'm in sales. I'm there to serve. This is a serving job. So when I first walk in the house, I simply figure out why I'm there. But can you because I know you last week you went out there, you did some travel trips. What'd you say? You were in like 5 different states in a week?
Yeah, 5 states in 5 days.
And man, I seen it, and I'm like, man, you went out there and really served a lot of families.
Yeah,
so
served about 11 families.
I love it. And it's
Yep.
like you're not playing around when you're out there. You're like, look, you definitely want to find the why because I'm not
sure.
coming back because I'm here now, and if it's important, we're gonna get it done.
Absolutely.
So if you could take a couple minutes, I'm gonna turn it over to you, and then what I'll do is I'll kind of piggyback, see how similar, we go about finding the why and how we dig in. But look, I'm really really proud of you, man. Went out there and served. Take a couple minutes, man, and kind of dive into how you approach the why. When you find the why, how you make it more personable, and how you're able to help so many families.
So the biggest thing when you're thinking about a why, it's especially inside the house, it's truly taking your emotions out of the conversation, altogether, and truly listening. I think so many times as a brand new agent, just as a human being in general, we focus on us. You always talk about yourself. You always talk about what you're doing, what your accomplishments are or what's not working. But when you decide to put your emotions and your situation to the side, and you start to really listen and focus on that person sitting across the table from you, then you start to be able to truly understand and really become one with them. Like I build relationships in the house within 5 minutes because I listen, right? That's the first part. They're going to tell you exactly what they want, and it's just up to you to bring, when they filled out that form in the beginning, that's when their why was the strongest. That's when they had the most emotion, right? So it's your job to bring that back up, bring all those feelings back. You know what I mean? When you're inside the house, because at the end of the day, they're not buying because of how much it costs. They're buying you, number one, but the only way they're going to buy you is if you remind them of that pain, the loss of a loved one, what that's going to look like. The GoFundMe pages, paying for medical bills, trying to figure out how you're going to take care of the house. All these things that they don't want to think about, you have to put in the forefront to help them understand, hey, this is why you truly need this type of policy. And you got to be willing to ask the tough questions. Hey, why am I here? Why, when you filled out this request, what do you want this policy to do for you? Right? And you listen. You don't say anything. You just listen. What do you want this policy to do for you? Who are going to be the people? Who is that person or the people who are going to pick up the pieces when you pass away? Do they live local? Right? Can they afford to bear you right now if you didn't have a policy in place? What does that look like? What does it look like when your husband wakes up, John? What does it look like when your wife wakes up tomorrow and you're no longer here? Can she sustain this household? Is she going to have to downsize? Is she going to have to bring family into the house to help take care of things? Right? Like, what is they going to do? And then, especially when you're dealing with couples, and we talked about this a couple of days ago, you have to ask those hard questions to the spouse as well. Like, if I'm sitting with John and Mary, I'm like, hey, Mary, specifically, if John didn't wake up tomorrow, what would you do? Could you afford to stay here without John? Could you fill that void, right? Mary's going to say no, or whatever she's going to say. Most of the time it's no. John may try to butt in. I'm like, John, I'm sorry, you're already dead. But you got to be willing. I learned this from Dominic Rogers. He said, listen, when you're on the phone and when you're in the house, you have to be willing to lose that appointment or lose that sale because you're being 100% selfless. Mm-hmm. Too many times we don't say what we want to say, what we need to say, because we're thinking about how they're going to look at us. That's selfish.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, and I tell people this all the time, we run 30-some appointments a week.
Mm-hmm.
If you do not help that family the first time, what are the chances of you seeing them a second time?
Oh, slim to none. And too many times we get, there's a book by Grant Cardone, Sell or Be Sold, right? Mm-hmm. When you're in the house or when you're on the phone, you're either selling them or they're selling you, right? Yep. And the thing about it is, there's no such thing as having too much coverage, too much mortgage protection, too much life insurance. There's no such thing, right? Mm-hmm. So if you get somebody to convince you that there is, that's your fault. You lose that sale, that's your fault.
Yep. Because you know what's crazy? Because you were telling me the other day you had a death claim, right? Mm-hmm. And the longer you're in this business, you're going to get them.
Yeah.
And I've gotten a lot myself, but I have never, ever had a client call me, or for a family member of a client, and said, oh my God, this is too much coverage. Do you know what I mean? Like, oh my God, like I don't know what I'm going to do with all this money. You know what I mean? Like I've never had somebody say that. Mm-hmm. And I think the truth of the matter is, like, there really is no such thing as too much money.
No.
You know what I mean? Whether they have family, right? If it's a daughter that just lost her father, okay. If it's too much money for her, she can use it for her daughter, right?
Yep.
I'm sure her daughter may want to go to college. There's things in life that she may want to do. You can find something to help you out.
100%. 100%. Yeah. What does that look like for you? Like, how did you find that why? What are some of those pain points that you hit on? Because obviously, you sell at a high level, right? You sell big premiums and you get a lot of people to be home. Your show ratio is pretty high. What is it that you do to really not only get them to say, yes, this is what I need, this is what I want, this is what my family needs, right? And I'm okay with this price, but also keeping it to stay on the books, because that's a huge one too.
Yeah, I think it's very important. Number one, when I find that why, I'm asking the tough questions. I'm a more visual person, so I try to make it more visual for the people that I'm sitting with. So, like, when you asked, what does this look like when John's not here? I already have, and I asked the question, like, if Mary, if John didn't come home today, how much income would be lost, like on a monthly basis?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, how much does he make? I'm like, how much does he bring home that helps with bills?
Strong.
That if he doesn't wake up, it's going to be gone, right? The other day, I just sat with, I think the gentleman, he was 26 and his wife was 35. He works like 50 hours a week. He brings home, I think it was close to 6, and she brought home about $1,800. Just brought like a veteran too. Just bought I think it was a $500,000 house. The mortgage is like $2,800 a month, right? So when I'm digging in, I'm putting it down on paper. Like when they can visually see, hey, look, when he's gone, I put an X through the income, right?
Oh, I like that.
So they can visually see it's gone. And now you see the mortgage, which is $2,300 or $2,400 or whatever it is. And then she's left with with $1,800. Like, there's no denying it. Like, once you see those numbers, something's not getting paid.
That visual is strong.
You know, so I'd like to show that because then it almost brings it into reality. It's like, look, something happens, it's gone. So what does that look like? Okay, so let me ask you something. If we could pay this house off or give you, a check for a couple $100,000, it's going to supplement that income.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
100%.
And then I'll ask, like, is this a place that you want to stay in? Because I want to know, and I always tell them it's very important that we put a game plan together now.
Yeah.
Because when something happens, we want to make sure, you have a plan and that we're not going to be in a position where we're forced to make decisions, but we can make decisions based on what we put in place today. So, look, when we submit this application, you're going to call me, you're going to let me know when you get the information in the mail. We're going to go through it, okay? Because at the end of the day, we're going to sit this, and we're never going to be younger than we are now. We're never going to be any healthier. So if we pick the plan that's going to suit your needs now, then it's only going to get easier later, right? So it's not like we got to worry on a daily basis. Oh, do I have enough? Do I have this? And I always tell them it's got to be sustainable and maintainable.
Yep.
Like your mortgage, like your car payment, right?
You got to be able to set it and forget it.
Correct. So I think that's important. Building value, letting them know I'm the one that's coming back. And look, we're not changing this later. Like in 6 months, you're not calling me saying, hey, I can't afford this anymore. Because I let them know, look, we don't want to waste your time and we don't want to waste mine. Nobody likes to talk about death. Nobody likes to talk about these things. So if we do it right the first time, we don't have to worry about this again.
Yep.
So I think just building that rapport, again, not being afraid whether they pick, something that is going to cover the entire mortgage, or whether it's, $500,000 in coverage, or whether it's $100,000 in coverage. At the end of the day, I don't care what they pick. I just want to make sure that what they're going to pick is going to help them fulfill their need.
Yeah, 100%. I think we don't do enough. A lot of us don't do enough, a good enough job of showing the big numbers because of that. Can you just briefly, talk about that really quick? Because I think that's the problem where a average producer can then turn into a top producer if they just get out of their own way.
Yeah, and again, it goes back to, not worrying about yourself. So, like America, they just increased it to, I guess, their term and their cashback products to $450,000, right?
Amazing.
So, and again, like what other company, Mutual of Omaha, $300,000, right? Everybody asks me why, because there's more value, there's more coverage. So I'm not afraid to show $450,000 because guess what? If they need it, they want it, they understand what their need is. If I don't show it, then I've actually done that family a disservice because I haven't given them the opportunity to apply for the coverage. See, people, and once you do this more and more, people will ask you when you show them options, they think that's the only options they have.
Yep.
So if you don't show what the maximum amount of coverage they can get, they don't know anything else. They're like, oh, well, my mortgage is $150,000. Well, I'm only allowed to have $150,000. Or, oh, I want cremation. You show them a $5,000 policy. They think that's all they can get.
Yeah.
So, and again, they've told you up front, but, sometimes we don't listen. We just think, oh, well, maybe this is all they can afford or this and that. Stop being selfish.
Yeah. Like, who are we to limit how much coverage we think you can have?
We can't. And you know what the problem is? And I went through it as well. People are afraid of chargebacks. They're like, oh, my gosh, I don't want to show them this.
Selfish.
It's a high premium. If it charges back, that I'm in the... You got to understand that if you run the numbers and then you find the need and then you're truly there to help them and you build value, people will keep their policy.
Yes.
So, you got to show it. You can, and I think it was Steve Giordano and some other people, Easton Padden, they say, look, they show high numbers.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that changes. Building value, showing numbers. If you don't show the numbers, you're not able to get them the max amount of coverage.
Yeah, there you go. So, listen, find the why, ask the tough questions, build rapport, you'll be okay. Keep the numbers in your favor, baby.
Run them, baby. And that's the other thing. You just kept running. Like,
yeah,
you
that's
run,
it.
If you run and you're not happy with how many families you served, go out there and run more.
I had this thing that happened the other day, and I thought about it. I was like, when your activity exceeds the time that you take to think about everything going wrong, everything just starts going right. So you just run your ass off.
I know. Isn't that funny? I don't know if I was telling you. I'm like, yesterday in the field, it's like I'm running. I'm like behind. I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, again, I don't rush the appointment inside until I find the why, right?
For sure.
But then I realize I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm in the car. I'm like, I'm 15 minutes later. I'm 20 minutes later. I'm 30 minutes later, whatever it is. And then it's a great feeling. I love feeling pressure.
Right, yeah.
Pressure is an amazing feeling in this business.
You can't think about nothing else but just doing what you need to get done and just moving on to the next. You know?
GPS, next house.
Yep.
Oh, it's 8 minutes away. Great. And that way when you get somebody that's like, oh, I'm not home, or, oh, I texted and canceled, and, oh, okay, well, look, I'm not going to lie to you. I've been running late all day long.
I haven't ate all day. I need to use the bathroom. Like, thank you, Jesus. That's how it should be. If you don't have enough, if your calendar is not full, Andrew Taylor says this too all the time. If your calendar is not full, then you're doing something wrong. You will not win if you limit yourself to just blocks of time throughout your day, your month, your week. You need to fill your calendar up, the whole thing, right? So that you're always busy and you don't have time to think about the setbacks, the hurdles you're going through. Because if you take your mind off that, this business that we're in, it's all mental. It's mental and a high work ethic. So just work hard. The mentality will come if you just push past it. You run through those walls, and you just keep the grind high, baby. Keep the grind high.
I know, because you don't got time to think about it. I love it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're like, you're not. And again, when you have that many appointments and you're that busy, you're like, you don't even realize how many people either no-showed you or told you no.
It doesn't matter.
You know what I mean? You're like, I got so many other people to serve. And I don't even have time to think about it, let alone use the bathroom. So let's go. We got to get to the next one.
There you go. Do it for the people. All right, guys. That's all we got for this week. What's your why? Blessed to be alive and ready to thrive. Peace.
Peace.